ladies, it's Jaj here, and this garden season has officially begun. Everything is planted. Everything in my garden is now planted. If you've never seen my channel before, yeah, I'm in zone 3. I'm in Berta Canada. I am a Canadian garden, and our season is so small. We really only have 3 months, and that is it. So we are gung-ho here. It is June 5th. June 5th. So for records, this is where we're at. Our garden has never been this far along in June, like the first week of June. This is uncalled for. This is amazing. Everything is growing so well. We started so many of our plants so early. And today we are just going to show vegetables. This is my vegetable garden tour. I'm going to be doing a totally separate video where I'm going to show you guys in depth all the flowers that I have throughout my acreage here. And I have like 8.5 acres. I'm only utilizing a few spots on my property for growing so that it's not so overwhelming. But let's get into the vegetables. Beans, and I did 4 or 5 different varieties, but they are all coming up now. I think it was 2 weeks ago that I planted the seeds in the ground. But you can see, like, for size reference, I'd say they're about 3 inches tall, maybe 3 to 4 inches tall, some of them. Dandy green, I did like a kids blend. It was like 3 different types of beans. The bush beans are all here. They're all doing really good. A ton of them are up, which is fantastic. This whole area here is a bit of my failure for this year. And pole beans are what I planted all along here. All of these were pole beans that I started in the house, and pole beans do not transplant very well. I planted the Scarlet Runner pole bean, which is this one right here. The Scarlet Runner pole beans took to transplanting way better. The second variety I planted are Blue Lake pole beans, and they are all dead. Is this one a Blue Lake? No, this was Scarlet too. None of my Blue Lakes survived. Maybe this one? Is it Blue Lake? Oh, I have one Blue Lake that survived, and that's this one right here, you guys. I really wanted to grow Blue Lake pole beans because my dad grew them last year, and he just was obsessed. He said that they were the most delicious pole bean that he'd ever had. So I wanted to grow them this year, but I only have one. I planted some, I think this is apple mint, and I really like apple mint. Really good for putting in your water. It's kind of like a citrusy scented mint. It's not like your classic mint. It's really nice. So I planted it here in its own little zone because I don't know how invasive it's going to become. I know mint typically will kind of take over a zone, but with the specialty mints, I don't find that. I find that they have a really tight growing habit and they don't seem to spread like your traditional mint. So regardless, I made a little border for it. It doesn't look that great, but whatever. It's kind of just to prevent it from growing into the outward zones. This is a basil. This was just like random stuff. I have kohlrabi. I have kohlrabi here, kohlrabi here, kohlrabi here. This is a patty pan that I started in the house. All these things are things that I started in the house. What is this? Cucumber, market 70. This is not doing so well. Another kohlrabi. This is a patty pan that I had like forgotten about. I thought it was dead, and I stopped watering it for like 2 weeks by the house, and it just kept living. I don't know. Squash I find are really weird where they look like they're almost dead, but you give them another week or 2 and then they bounce back and they look great. So this patty pan is doing really good. This is a random sunflower, black Hungarian. It can get like 5 to 10 feet tall, but it's not looking so good, but it's alive. And then I have a little tomato here. So this year, I put all indeterminate tomato varieties here. So they're just gonna keep growing and they're gonna get super tall. I am growing the Juliet tomato this year. If you guys have seen, I think it's Don't Eat the Grass or You Can Eat the Grass. They're a fellow Canadian YouTuber and they are in BC. I am obsessed with their channel. I absolutely love them. And the lady on that channel, she says that her favorite tomato variety of all time is the Juliet tomato. So we actually have the Juliet tomato here, and it's kind of like a saladette tomato. So it has like, I think 1 inch red fruits, 1 to 2 inches. But she says it's good for eating fresh, for for canning, for making sauces, for doing cooking, anything. Apparently these are like the best tomato and the flavor is amazing and they produce a ton of tomatoes. That's what this lady says on You Can't Eat the Grass. So I love her channel. So I'm just taking her word for it, and I planted a ton of Juliet tomatoes this year. And this one is looking so healthy. So Juliet tomato, a second Juliet tomato. This one I think is one of my Peace Vine cherry tomatoes, looking really good. I've randomly set wooden stakes in the ground here because I just felt like there was so much good space that I could be planting something else at the base of these tomatoes. So I had a bunch of cucumbers and they're all Talladega variety of cucumber. So I have some here. I have another one at the start of the trellis. And then I have another area that I put just seeds directly in the soil, but I made little markers for myself so I wouldn't forget. And over here are Peace Vine cherry tomatoes. I have 2 at the end. And then this little guy right here is a banana legs. A banana legs tomato is like a yellow, medium to large size tomato, and it's kind of like this oblong shape, and it's a determinate variety. And I was confused at the end of my planting day, and I did not mean to put determinate varieties here because they're very compact bush type tomatoes. But I planted it here and I was tired, so I left it here. So banana tomato or banana legs there. Down at the end, I had a couple extra squash plants, like patty pans. So if you guys have watched my channel before, you know I love patty pans. They're my absolute favorite thing to eat from my garden. And if you have never tried growing them before, if it's not too late for you, I would pick some up and I would try to start them in your garden. They are delicious. They're like a little flying saucer shaped yellow squash. They're very good, just diced up, fried with butter, dill, salt, and pepper, or put them in the oven and roast them. They're very quick to cook. They're a very buttery squash, delicious. So this patty pan is looking really, really good. I'm so pleased about that. I think it's important to do a close-up of every single plant. Please let me know down below in the comments if you want a close-up done of every single plant that I talk about. I think you should see a close-up of every single plant. I'm just gonna show you the zones because my true love says I'm taking too long to do this video. Okay, so I'm gonna try to go quickly, ladies. I'm gonna be real fast and efficient with this garden tour. So this is basically the tomato zone. I have indeterminate varieties of tomatoes growing on the side and that side. We have these kind of like makeshift trellises. These are all determinate variety tomatoes. So they're gonna be like bush compact, they won't get super tall. And then all of my excess squashes that I didn't have enough room for in the squash zone, I planted here. So we have basically patty pans, yellow zucchinis growing along here, and they're all looking really good. I'm gonna rattle off some of the names of the tomatoes I have along this trellis. So I am growing a boxcar willy here, Peace Vine tomato, like cherry tomato here. This is a black cherry tomato, and I'm really excited about this black cherry because I've never had like a dark purpley black tomato. It's more for the visual that I'm growing this. I think it'll just have it'll bring variation into my harvest, which will be really fun to see. This one is a Italian super paste, so my true love can make some tomato paste. And then this is another Peace Vine cherry tomato. And you already have tomatoes on here. This is the most exciting part of the whole tour, you guys. It's June 5th, and I have tomatoes on one of my tomato plants. I cannot believe it. And there's even more up here. You can see. Leave that leaf in the way. Yeah, so we could pretty much end the tour right now because that's the highlight of this entire tour, but we'll keep going. I have another tomato here. I don't even remember Peanut, what is she doing? She keeps digging at the tomatoes. God, you're so crazy. God, you're cute. Okay, so that's the tomato zone. And then we didn't want to fill this whole zone with tomatoes, so we decided to leave a bare patch of soil here. And this whole row, you can already see they're coming up. We just sprinkled a ton of radish seeds. Radishes are looking amazing. I like eating radishes fresh, but I actually prefer them roasted in the oven because when you roast them in the oven, they get really sweet and that really hot intensity goes away, and it's almost like eating a potato. Like, it's absolutely delicious. I love radishes roasted. And these 2 rows, we planted beets. So this row is golden beets, and I believe they're all starting to come up. They're very, very small, so I don't know if you can see them. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's thunder in the background, so we might need to pick up the pace. It's going to be a storm tonight. And then on the row over here, this last row over here, this is all, I think it's Detroit beets, and they're red beets, just your classic red beet, and they're all coming up. I feel raindrops. Okay, we're going to go really quick. Over here is the squash zone. I have my big mother effing rhubarb over here from my dad. It's like a 40-year-old rhubarb plant. Love it. And then everything in here is patty pan squashes, spaghetti squashes, and yellow zucchinis. Basically, that's the rundown. There are some cucumbers, but it's predominantly like squash. And I thought half of these were pretty much going to die. Some of them did, but most of them have made a full recovery. And like, look at this guy. This one, this is a Golden Delight zucchini. Look how beautiful this looks, you guys. June 5th. I can't stop saying that enough. I can't believe our garden is looking this good. June 5th. This is mind-blowing. These are all potatoes. Our garden is a little disheveled right now with sheetery everywhere and buckets in weird locations because we had a possible thunderstorm last night. It was a thunderstorm, but we thought we were going to get hail. So we were covering everything with sheets, and so it looks a little crazy right now. That's why. So yeah, all the potatoes are in here. We planted the same varieties basically as last year. Do you remember the names of any of the varieties? And there's Veggie, German Butterball.
Some banana. Maybe.
You do banana fingerling? I don't know. Anyways, there's 3 or 4 varieties of potatoes. Potatoes aren't that exciting. Over here are garlic, and my true love planted all of this stuff in the fall of last year. So here in Canada, Zone 3, Berta Canada, typically we plant our like the tulip bulbs and our garlic in like September, October. Is that correct? Pretty much if the ground is still workable and it hasn't snowed yet. You want to do it like right before it's about to snow, but the ground is still workable. So these garlic are doing great, so good. Over here we have a horizontal cattle panel trellis, and I planted sugar snap peas all up along here. I just, of course, direct sowed those. You don't need to start those in the house. And these are all looking amazing. They're looking amazing. And down here, I pretty much have sugar snap peas, 2 different varieties, for 3/4 of this trellis. And then at the very end here, I have planted my tomatillos, and I have 5 individual tomatillo plants. This is the first year that I am growing tomatillos. I'm going to be making salsa verde with them. And look at, you can even, I think that might be a little baby one. Is that a little baby tomatillo with a little husk around it possibly? It kind of looks like it. I just today planted a whole row in front of this entire cattle panel trellis, like basically 8 inches in front of this stuff, of Swiss chard, just classic red, green Swiss chard. So those will be coming up eventually, but you can't see it yet. One of the biggest disappointments of my garden so far this year are my melons, my honeydew, my cantaloupe, my watermelons. I planted them all here. I really wanted to space them out. So I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 melon type plants here. And they all look like they're pretty much dead except for this one plant here. And I don't remember which variety it is. There are flowers on it if you want to come see the flowers. There's spiders all over this garden. So you can see I have flowers on this one. This is I think this is my honeydew, my diplomat honeydew. But you guys, like, look at this. Look at, like, it's flimsy and a lot of the leaves are dried up. And they were looking really good in the house, but maybe it's just my climate, maybe it's my soil. I have horrific luck with melons, watermelons, whatever. I tried direct seeding them last year and I did have one produce a fruit like that big. It was a joke. It was embarrassing. But I'm really determined to try and get melons, so I don't know. We're just gonna see how this goes. I'm hoping it's like the squash and maybe they make a comeback in 2 weeks and they look like they're alive, but right now 90% of the melons I started in the house and I transplanted, they look dead. This is probably the most different looking area of my garden from the very first like garden tour that I did 3 weeks ago, that you guys saw the entire layout of my garden before I had anything planted. And I made this beautiful raised bed out of logs that the county cut down on the edge of my property. I was like, score, I'm taking all these free logs, and I made a raised bed and I planted hot peppers in here. And just for beauty, I put some creeping Jenny and like another trailing plant along the edges. But these are all hot peppers. They are not doing, I mean, they're all alive. So we'll leave it at that and we'll see how they do in the coming weeks. And I'm only gonna touch base on the vegetables for this garden tour. I'm gonna talk about my flowers in a different video, which I'll be releasing in probably 3 or 4 days. So this bed is my pepper bed. I have this wonderful lid, you guys. It's like a hoop hot cover that my dad made, and it goes on top, and peppers like it really, really hot. So this is such a wonderful thing that I have. I'm so grateful for this hoop hut and this box. This box my dad made with his bare hands for fun. He's like a carpenter extraordinaire and he does it just as a hobby. He's amazing. So he made this beautiful bed and it's filled with beautiful soil from his beautiful compost, and nothing grows better on my property than what's in this box. So this is basil, the Amazel basil from Proven Winners. Apparently this thing is the best basil plant that has ever existed. So I bought 2 of them. I have one there and I have one over here. And then everything else is sweet peppers. It's just sweet peppers. I have another little basil that I started in the house over here, and I have 2 lettuces right here. I did a whole video about the type of peppers I have in here, and I did a whole video of me planting it. So if you want to see that, I'll link it up here or here at the top of the video, and I'll also have it in the description box down below. This bed is doing really good. Oh, and ginger. I have ginger in here too. My dad started some ginger, but ginger is not doing well in this box. You can see like it kind of looks all wilty and like has some crusty little dying leaves on it. I have 4 areas with ginger and they're not doing that well. So that's the pepper box. The peppers are doing great and the basil's doing great. Okay, over here is all of my determinate bush type tomatoes. I made a specific zone just for them. They all have tomato cages and they'll all grow to be about 2 feet tall. And they're all either Manitoba red tomatoes or banana legs tomato. 2 varieties, that's all I have in this zone. And 13 of them already have flowers. So 13 out of, I think, 17 individual tomato plants. They're looking really good. I'm quite pleased with my tomatoes this year. They're all progressing so quickly. Okay, over here, I have spinach growing in the ground. I have 2 rows of spinach and they are actually looking quite good. I have a bunch of pak choi over here that I just like randomly placed, and they're all getting eaten up really bad by something. If you can see the leaves with all the holes. The pak choi is delicious to someone on my property and I'm not eating it. So the pak choi is kind of, I'm just giving up on that. Over here are 3 rows of carrots. So I have a row here, a row here, and a row here. All the carrots are up. We planted them probably, like we direct sowed seeds, I'd say probably 3 to 4 weeks ago. And they all started coming up within the last week and everything is looking really good. Really happy with the carrots. I have a watermelon here. Again, my watermelon just don't seem to be doing very well. This is a cream of Saskatchewan watermelon. It's probably gonna die. Over here are my potatoes. So I really like potatoes in the ground because you seem to get way more potatoes. So we did a bunch of potatoes in the ground as well as in those orange Home Depot buckets, and they're doing really good. Over here I have more squash plants. patty pans, and I think a butternut squash, just a bunch of squash, and these are doing pretty good. Peanut, come Peanut, let's go. Freaking cutie. Oh, God. I forgot to mention, before you even enter the fenced-in garden, I have all of my hot peppers. I have all of my hot peppers right here. I have a bunch of different varieties. I have hot wax, hot Bulgarian carrot, jalapeno tam. That's pretty much all the varieties I have in here. Black Hungarian, hot pepper. Oh, and I have a sunflower at the back, but I'm not supposed to talk about flowers. So it's all hot peppers here because I'm trying to keep them separated from my sweet peppers, because if you plant sweet peppers next to your hot peppers, they can make your sweet peppers hot, and I don't want that. So over here, I have to mention this sunflower because it's looking so good. This is a Black Hungarian sunflower. I would say this is about 12 inches tall already. It's looking so good and so healthy. I figured it'd be really nice to have sunflowers on either side of the gate to the garden. It'd be really beautiful. So over here are just sweet peppers. So I have Marconi Red. I have, Chocolate Beauty. I have just a bunch of different sweet peppers, and this is one garlic plant that survived that I planted in the fall. My True Love's garlic looks great, and my garlic looks like trash. So last zone, this is my herb/kale bed. I have my strawberry mint, which you guys know that I love. I like to put it in my waters, and it does not grow very well for me ever outside, but I keep trying. I have a standard just mojito mint. This is just your classic mint. I have 5 kale plants that I just direct sowed with seed. Something's eating my kale. Ugh. I have basil, cilantro. This is basil, cilantro, more basil. I have pineapple sage. This smells like actual fresh pineapple. I like to put that in my water. And then a bunch of dill that I started directly from seed, and the dill is looking amazing. Over here, brassica bed, and it is basically all broccoli and Brussels sprouts. So this whole half is Brussels sprouts. Oh, sorry, this whole half is Brussels sprouts. And then the broccoli is getting really tall. You can even see little broccoli florets starting at the top of this one, which is pretty cool. And then I planted 3 Black Hungarian sunflowers at the very back because I figured eventually, like end of summer, I'm gonna have huge tall sunflowers at the back, and it will be absolutely gorgeous. That wraps up my garden tour first week of June. I'm going to try to stay on top of doing these videos weekly. Stay tuned for my flower garden tour around my property. I've planted a ton of flowers this year. I'm trying to adopt like a potager type garden. So I'm trying to incorporate a lot of flowers around my garden where previously I really never cared about flowers that much, but I've really started to grow an appreciation for them, and I want to try doing a lot of cut flowers this year and then show you guys all those bouquets that I make in the house if everything is successful. So that wraps it up. If you enjoyed, make sure you like it and subscribe for my weekly videos, and I will see you all in the next one.